Hi everyone. We are at tip 4 already, prep session 4. Don't forget the test is on November 25th, and we hope that you are participating in the tech readiness and checking whether or not your laptops are charged and fully updated so that you will have no issues on the day of the test. Today's focus will be on reading. So there are 3 types of reading questions that you will encounter on the literacy test. The first one involves explicitly stated answers. So for example, the answer that you find, there will be a question and the answer is found directly in the text. So those are the easy ones, the explicitly or directly stated answers. The other ones are inferences. So those are answers that they'll ask you a question, but the answer is not directly in the text. You have to infer, you have to look for clues and try to figure out the answer from there. For example, if there's a story and the character comes in and shakes off their umbrella, you can infer that it has been raining. So you just have to look for additional clues, and that involves a little bit more thinking. There are also questions that involve making a connection, which means that you need to make a connection between the information that's presented in the text and your own experiences. Okay, so the information paragraph is one of the tasks that you will have to do on the literacy test. They will give you a long paragraph. It's worth 13% of your final score. And the purpose is to explain a topic or process. So you will have to read this information paragraph, and then you will be asked to identify the main idea and some supporting details from that paragraph. So in addition to typical reading multiple choice questions that I just went over, there will be this short answer question that asks you to identify the main idea and some supporting details. So when you're reading anything, whether it's for the information paragraph question or just the multiple choice question or just any task that you're reading, whether or not it's the OSSLT or not, any reading task, here are some helpful hints. So before you read anything, take a look at, if there are questions involved with what you're reading, take a look at the questions first. So that helps give you an idea of what you should be looking for when you actually read. On the literacy test itself, all paragraphs are numbered. So if there's a question that asks, in paragraph 5, what is the meaning of such and such a word? Go to the text and highlight that paragraph because you know that there is a question about that paragraph. So that's a good tip for you. Also, take a look at the title. Take a look at any visuals or pictures. Start to predict in your head based on the title and then any pictures or through skimming the actual text. Try to predict what it's going to be about. And think about whether or not you have any prior knowledge about that topic. These are things that good readers do all the time, and it has been proven that these pre-reading tips will help you with your understanding. So I hope that's something that you already do when you read something new. So while you're reading something, there are things that you should be doing as well. Underline or highlight important information. There is a highlighter tool in the tools for the OSSLT, or you can ask one of the teacher supervisors for a piece of paper and you can underline or jot down some notes. There is a highlight option as well that you can use on the OSSLT. Another tip is to, if you see a long sentence and it's intimidating and confusing, break it down. Take it bit by bit, reread it, and try to put it in other words or summarize it in your own words. That often helps. If you come across a word and you're not sure what the word means, look for a familiar root word within that word, or look at what is immediately before or after that word to establish the context and infer meaning. You don't necessarily, in every case, have to understand every single word in order to understand what the article or the text is trying to say. So as you're reading, also try to identify the main idea of the text. What does the author want you to know about this text that they are writing? Okay, so at this time we're going to go over how to find the main idea. So on your LMS, on the grade 10 tips page, please go to the sheet that is called information paragraph tip sheet for finding the main idea. And you can see what it looks like on your screen right now. So it's under tip 4, so go to the grade 10 LMS page, go to Tips Tuesday, go to tip 4, and this sheet is called Tip Sheet for Information Paragraph. So this sheet gives you some really good information about how to find the main idea. It's not always an easy thing to do. So it gives you some steps on how to find the main idea. So figure out the topic of what you are reading. When you're reading something, ask yourself, what is this selection or paragraph about? What is the subject of this paragraph or selection? Then look for details or examples in the selection. This is the controlling idea. It answers the question, what is the selection or paragraph saying about the topic? What does the author want me to know about the subject or topic? So once you have the topic and the controlling idea, you can write a statement that describes the main idea. So for example, if you look at the sentence that is on the sheet, the sentence says, and this was from an actual past literacy test, polar bear survival in the wild may be in danger due to climate change. So the topic is polar bear survival, and the controlling idea is how their lives are in danger due to climate change. From that, you write a statement that is could be considered the main idea. So for example, I have a few examples here for you. You could say, climate change has negatively affected the survival of polar bears. Or, the survival of polar bears has been adversely affected by climate change. Or, the negative effects of climate change have threatened the lives of polar bears, or the survival of polar bears. So notice how there are many different ways in which to say the same thing. All three of those sentences I just shared with you all mean the same thing, and they all reiterate the main idea of that statement or of that topic. Okay, so the OSSLT will always ask the question. So this is the short answer question on the OSSLT for the information paragraph. It will tell you to state the main idea of this selection and provide one specific detail from the selection that supports it. If you look at the box at the bottom of this sheet, it tells you how to structure that answer in order to get the most marks. So you can start it off with, the main idea of this selection is, and then give an example, and then state how the example supports the main idea. So that gives you a nice guideline there on how to structure that question for the OSSLT. Okay, so we're going to practice finding the main idea. This is also on in your LMS under sheet number 3, and we're going to practice how to do it. Let me just find it. I'm going to read it with you. Okay, so here we go. The methods of naming Atlantic Basin hurricanes have varied over time, but all have encountered problems. Originally, a hurricane in the West Indies took its name from a particular saint who was celebrated on the day on which it occurred. Confusion arose when there was a recurrence. For example, on September 13, 1876, the day of San Felipe, a hurricane hit Puerto Rico. More than 50 years later, another hurricane struck on the same day. It was named San Felipe II. In 1953, the World Meteorological Organization adopted the alphabetical system of women's names, retiring names of significant storms to avoid this duplication. When demands for gender equality arose, the WMO added men's names in 1979. the male, female alphabetic naming pattern has continued since then. 21 names are designated for each year, skipping the letters Q, U, X, Y, and Z. Names of major storms, such as Hugo and Katrina, are retired and will not be used again, and the WMO chooses new names to replace the retired ones. Storm activity increases and decreases in cycles over decades, but today a new problem has developed. Hurricane activity has increased so much since 1995 that the WMO may need more than 21 names for a season. The 2005 season was the busiest on record, with 26 named storms, including 13 hurricanes. One proposal is to include the Greek alphabet, which adds 24 more names to the WMO roster. This idea is the latest in a series of solutions to the challenge of naming hurricanes. Okay, so now, if you were given this on the literacy test, you need to identify the main idea and a couple of supporting details. So how would you do that? Take a look at the first sentence. The topic and the closing sentence usually give you a really good clue as to what the main idea is and what the topic is. So that's a good place to go to identify the main idea. Then you would read out the whole piece again and pick out supporting details. Supporting details are evidence, examples, opinions, etc. So I'm just going to fast forward to a quick graphic here before I go back. So again, your topic and is the naming of hurricanes. Your main idea in what I just read is something like, over the years, the naming of hurricanes has been very challenging. And then you can provide some supporting details. So one supporting detail could be that the naming of hurricanes used to be based on the saints, the saint day for that particular day, but other hurricanes, but it caused repetition. Another detail, your second supporting detail, could be that they've adopted male and female names, but hurricane activity has increased so much that they now need more than 21 names. So that's just a way of identifying the main idea and the supporting details for a given paragraph, an information paragraph. I'm just going to go back to reiterate. Okay, so remember, the question on the OSSLT will ask you to state the main idea of the selection and provide a specific detail from the selection that supports the main idea. Remember that the supporting details can include specific examples, expert opinions, statistics, researched evidence. Remember to read the topic and closing sentences to help you find the main idea, then read the whole piece to pick out your supporting details. And I've just stated again how you can structure that answer when you are asked that on the OSSLT. So you can start it off with, the main idea of this selection is, and then you can state the main idea, and then you can give the example, and then after the example, you say, this example shows how, and then you would fill it in based on the topic that you are given. So that's a good way to structure that particular question. So now what we're going to do is, if you're going to be given a little bit of time to practice, so if you go to LMS and you go to your Tips Tuesday on your grade 10 LMS page, and you go to tip number 4, you would select Information Paragraph Quiz. And if you click on that, it's a self-marking quiz, and it takes you through it, and it's structured similar to the OSSLT. So we'd like you to keep in mind some of the tips that I've just given you and complete that exercise. Once again, so hopefully teachers can give the students about 5-10 minutes, or maybe 10 to 15 minutes perhaps, to complete this exercise, keeping in mind the strategies that I've just shared. If you have any questions, you can come and see me in Student Success. I'm Miss DiGiovanni. You can see your ELL Student Success teacher, Miss Napoleoni or Miss Mira Ranzella. You can speak to Miss Gilia. You can speak to your resource teacher. There are so many of us out there who are happy to help you. Another great resource is the OSSLT LMS page that has tons of information and tons of practice activities for you to try. So at this point, I hope that you are starting to work on your practice activity, and good luck, and we will see you for the next information session that will be shortly before the literacy test, the day before the literacy test, and it will give you some final tips and information and things to remember. Please make sure you're here for this information and checking for your details, and we will be sharing more specific information about locations, etc., what is allowed, what isn't allowed during the last presentation. So thank you. I hope you're taking this time to work on the activity. Thanks very much, everyone.